Well, Air India has sent a replacement aircraft with food and essentials for passengers stranded in the far east of Russia. This comes after one of its flights to San Francisco from New Delhi was forced to make an emergency landing because of an engine malfunction. Our Indian media reports said there were many U.S. citizens on board who were worried about landing in Russia, given existing tensions between Moscow and Washington. Moscow has banned airlines from numerous Western countries from operating in its airspace, although carriers such as Air India are still flying over Russia. 216 passengers and 16 crew were on board the Boeing 777 plane. They have been moved to makeshift accommodation until their replacement flight arrives.
We have a Beat 777-200 that is taking off at 1300 hours, so it must be in the air. Must be in the air just now. It's 6-hour flying, 6.5-hour flying time to Magden, and it'll land there, and at the earliest, it'll turn around not turn around. It'll board all the passengers and be en route to San Francisco.
Well, it's unclear how the faulty Air India plane can be fixed or removed from Russia. Sanctions imposed on Moscow over its war in Ukraine have made it difficult for airlines to send Western replacement parts to Russia. And Neha Punya joins us live from New Delhi. Neha, what do we know about the stranded passengers?
Well, there are more than 200 passengers on board this flight that made that emergency landing on Tuesday, and it's been a harrowing 24 hours for them, and that ordeal likely to continue until they reach San Francisco as well. This replacement aircraft is expected to land at the early hours of Thursday local time in Magadan, which is a remote town in Russia's far east. But when a question about possible American passengers on board was put to the U.S. State Department, they said it's quite likely there are American nationals on board given the flight's ultimate destination. We don't have a fixed number yet, but many passengers have been tweeting about their ordeal. Initially, there were reports that they would be put up in hotels. But overnight, there were contradictory reports that came out from the accounts of these passengers who said instead they were made to stay in makeshift arrangements, many of them put up in local dormitories and schools that were opened up as well. Air India confirming that earlier on Wednesday, saying that there are logistical problems given the small size of the town of Magadan, but saying it worked as quickly as it could with local authorities to arrange accommodation for the passengers there. The other challenge, of course, for Air India also is that it doesn't have any local staff members in Russia anymore. And it says that this made this entire situation very challenging. But for the passengers, many of them say they don't have access to proper food. Many say they've not been able to charge their phones and get in touch with their families. Some saying that, they're living in very cramped quarters. There are videos circulating online where you can see rooms filled with mattress after mattress lined up in close proximity. Some even saying that they've fallen sick and they need medical aid as well.
Neha, this emergency forced landing comes amid ongoing debate on the use of Russian airspace by some carriers. What are some of the concerns that have been raised now?
That's right. Air India is among a handful of global airlines that are now using Russian airspace, and that's because India has friendly ties with Russia despite the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. And it has given Air India a competitive edge because it's cut down on flying time. It's also a direct flight, so it's very popular with many people wanting to travel to the US. But there are concerns that have been raised. For example, just earlier this week, the CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby, almost foretold this crisis, saying that what happens if an airline that's using Russian airspace is made to make an emergency landing in Russia and it has a prominent US citizen on board. There are concerns that these nationals could then be taken into detention by Russia. Of course, that's not something that has happened or is being spoken of in this case. Air India saying that Russian authorities have been helpful and it is anticipating no trouble in getting these passengers out of Russia to San Francisco.
Thanks so much. Neha Punya reporting live to us there from New Delhi.